Good morning, Abundant Life Church. This is Pastor Chris. Today we're going to finish up our study on Romans chapter 12, verses 9 through 21. We've been talking about the idea that God wants His church to get along together in love and in unity, because if we're going to try and win the lost to Jesus, if we're fighting constantly, that's a terrible witness. God's agenda, God's most important thing for us to do is to turn non-believers into believers. This is why it matters that we have the right attitude. We have to be loving as we serve, because people tend to judge the gospel and they tend to judge God by our behavior. That's not fair. That's not right. It's not even logical, but it is reality. And we had better act accordingly. We had better realize that God is being judged by how we behave. God doesn't deserve to have the genius of His gospel, the story of the cross, the story of His grace. He doesn't deserve to have that magnificence misrepresented, because we Christians can sometimes act like jerks. People should be able to look beyond our pettiness and see the gospel for what it is. All right, that's how it should be. But reality tells us that the gospel is indeed judged by how we behave. It is indeed judged by how we treat people. All right. So what does that mean? It means we have to serve God in love, or we're going to make the gospel look bad. It won't make any disciples. It really is that painfully simple. We cannot serve God if we're not doing it in love. Without love, we're doing more damage than actual service, because people will not be drawn to our gospel. Do you know who the Westboro Baptist Church is? Google them. Brace yourself. The Westboro Baptist Church are the ones who they will go out and protest, like funerals of soldiers. They will say that God wants the soldiers dead. They go out and they have counter protests at like pride rallies, that type of thing. Here's the thing with the Westboro Baptist Church. They're so angry. They're so bitter and angry and hateful in how they go about things. They just love the idea that God is going to smite people. They've turned people off to the gospel. They haven't been loving. And you're thinking, yeah, but the things they're these gay rights rallies, they're not being good ambassadors. They're making the Bible look, or they're making the gospel look angry and foolish and hateful. They're terrible ambassadors. The key to this is, again, that same word, ambassadors. Think of yourself as an ambassador, a representative. Does diplomacy matter to an ambassador? Hey, that's the entire job. Of course it matters. Without diplomacy, you're going to lose people. You'll lose your cause. People will stop listening. Are there times that we need to say, well, no, diplomacy comes after taking a stand? Yes, there are times that taking a stand is more important. But as we said earlier, those times are rare. I would say 98% of the things you encounter in life do not need a brave stand. What they need is love and grace and forgiveness and diplomacy. We must never forget that the objective to serving is deeper than just helping people, deeper than just doing the work. The real objective is to show them this is what God is like. If we are helping you and we're doing it in love, this is what God is like. Would you like to know more? That will never be done if we aren't serving in love. Why? Well, people don't respond to hostility. If we aren't loving, they aren't coming. Bobby Knight was the coach of the Indiana Hoosiers for years. He won 3 national championships with them, considered one of the greatest coaches of all time, one of the smartest coaches of all time. And he did a lot of charitable work. He was also one of the biggest jerks you will ever come across in your life. And the argument was always, yeah, but he does a lot of good things too. Yeah, he ended up getting fired from his job. He ended up being somewhat of a disgrace. Why? How you do things matters. If you're a Christian, how you do things matters. We're ambassadors for Jesus. It's up to us to represent Jesus. It's up to us to show the lost there's a better way. You are wanted. Jesus wants you to come. How we send that message, how we do things matters more than we can imagine. It isn't enough just to serve God. It isn't enough just to put in the work. We have to serve and love, or we're wasting everybody's time. I want to tell you why I'm a Christian. I'm not going to tell you why I've stayed a Christian. Well, I will. I've stayed a Christian because of Jesus, but I became a Christian because of Tony Oropeza. And you might think, who's Tony Oropeza? Yeah, you've never heard of him, but he was pretty important in my life. When I was in seventh grade, I finally got to go into youth group, and the guy who worked with the junior hires was Tony Oropeza, one of the most fun human beings I have ever encountered in my life. We were seventh grade boys. Nobody wants to hang around seventh grade boys. No grown up does. Even seventh grade boys can't stand each other. Tony Oropeza had a good time with us. He loved us. He made things fun. We would go run around he would take us out to Farrell's ice cream parlor. He would just, being around Tony was fun. And when he told us about Jesus, he made Jesus sound just as much fun as Tony was. Now, I became a Christian because of Tony. I haven't seen Tony in 30 some years. I didn't stay a Christian because of Tony. I stayed one because of Jesus. But I started checking out Jesus because Tony did more than give me the gospel. He let me and a bunch of other squirrely seventh graders know you are loved. There's a place for you. Folks, that's our work, and that is everything. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.